and we'll dive in to this. So let me pray. Father, thank you for letting us study. Thank you for this beautiful language. Thank you for your word, the power of your word, the promises of your word. Thank you for the resources of BTS that is allowing this venue. I pray that you help us as we spend this 2 hours today to try to learn this language. And I pray you help me as a teacher. I pray that you help the technology function rightly. And I pray in all of it, Lord Jesus, that you would be glorified. For it's in Christ's name that we pray. Amen. All right. I see Dion is logging in, so welcome. So you guys are seeing that that study guide. If I'm looking at it right, that's what should be up, and it looks like I can move this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go over this study guide, and then we're going to look at some different parts. And if you have questions, just stop me and we can go through anything at any time. But the goal for tonight is we want to get a little bit better at reading the text. So Genesis 1 to 5, we're kind of got our goal. We want to be able to read anything in that. So we're going to do that a little bit together. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the PowerPoint vocabulary. So I think this quiz 2B is a vocabulary quiz. And so we're going to try to learn these words together. And then we're just going to review the alphabet, and we'll take turns reading out loud together. So that's what we're going to do for 2 hours. So let's jump in. So Willie and I were talking before everybody else logged in, and maybe I didn't say it last week, but we are reading this from right to left. So you start here and you read this way. So this is Bereshit, and when it's transliterated, of course, it's transliterated in English, so you're reading it that way. So Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz ve'ha'aretz hayita tohu va'vohu.
Hello?
So notice that doesn't have the dagesh, so you're pronouncing that as a V. Va'vohu.
Is this the same link as last week? Yeah, same link as last week.
Ve'hoshek al pnei tehom ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim va'yomer Elohim yehi or va'yehi or vayar. So that's a tricky one because that's a quiescent aleph there. Vayar Elohim et haor kitov va'yavdel Elohim vein haor uvein hahoshek vayikra Elohim laor yom ve'lachoshek kara layla vayihi erev vayihi boker yom ehad. So by the time we're finished this semester, I want you to be able to say that in Hebrew. So Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz, like that. And so we're going to study that a little bit every time in process of memorizing those 5 verses. So does anybody have any questions, like just on the mechanics of what I did? You kind of do you understand kind of what we're the goal we're after for tonight, what we're doing? Everybody on the same page there? Let me let Noah in. Noah, sorry I didn't see you in the waiting room. Thank you for logging in. So, what you want to do every time you start studying Hebrew, and I suggest that you set aside 2 or 3, 4 times a week to study rather than do it all at once. The first thing you want to do is to listen to that expert read, and you just want to try to start copying. You're trying to make the same sounds that he's making. And then as you begin to read, welcome, Noah. Sorry I left you not admitted there. I wasn't paying attention, so thank you for.
No worries, I appreciate it.
So the first thing you want to do is to listen to that expert read, and you just want to copy him. That's the most important rule. We're trying in everything we do. We're trying to copy the way he speaks, the way he reads, and if we do that, if we follow him enough, we're gonna start being able to do it just like him. Now, the second thing that we want to do tonight is look at this quiz 2B. So by 12 o'clock on Saturday, I want both for you to email both these quizzes to me. And so we're going to learn the top 15 words. So I have a PowerPoint of this, and if you click on that in your study guide, it'll take you to the Dropbox, and you can download the file. I'm going to switch right now to this. So if I did this right, you guys should be seeing vocab 1 to 15. Is that right? Is that what you're seeing? So if you go through this, the most important word to learn is ve. Ve means and. Ve is put on the front of the word. So if you have this word ve haaretz, this is and the land. So this is the word ve. Some people pronounce it we. We is probably the right way to do it in terms of the ancient way, but we're doing it the modern way because that's what the MP3s are in. So, but this is the word, and it means and look how many times it appears in the Hebrew Bible. 37,796 times. There are 303,000 words in the Hebrew Old Testament. Over 1/10 of those words is the word and. Okay, so how important is this to learn in terms of a vocabulary word? Well, you can tell your family, hey, that crazy Hebrew teacher made me memorize 1/10 of the entire Hebrew Bible on the second night. But you don't have to tell anybody that it's one letter and it means and, but it's true, right? 1 out of every 10 words in the Hebrew Bible is the
Dr.
word
Davis?
and.
Right.
Yes.
Someone's in the waiting room.
Oh, thank you. I need to figure out how to.
It's me. I'm switching computers.
Oh, I'm sorry
Oh,
about
Zach.
that.
It's Zach. Zach's in the waiting room.
Okay.
Here, that's it.
Let me pull this over and I can see it now.
I think there's a way to relinquish control to Christina so she can keep an eye on it if you just want to teach.
How would I do that? Do you know?
Christina, don't you know?
You would make me a co-host.
Yeah.
Where do I do that? Participants.
Right click on her name, I think.
I am not seeing Christina's name on here.
Oh, I'm under Brandon Robbins.
Oh, okay.
I have the BTS account.
Yes. Make host. Okay, so you're the host now.
Yeah, so I can let people in.
Thank you. I'm the quintessential absent-minded professor, so the more help people can give me on stuff like that, the better
And
better for us.
do we want to record? Do we want to record this class?
I'm recording in OBS,
Okay.
and I'll post that to YouTube. I get a little clearer one than recording with Zoom. So, were you guys able to access the recording from YouTube last week? Okay, well, we'll just do it that way. The cameras are clearer for me if we use OBS. So this is the word and it's 1/10. Okay, so the second word is the word the, and it's hey with the patah and then a doubling dagesh in the next letter. If you, as long as the next letter isn't a guttural, so you get this word ha shamayim, so the heavens. So this dagesh is going to double this letter, and you can do that as long as it's not a guttural. So as long as it's not an aleph, ayin, hey, het, or resh, then it will double the next letter. But this means the, and it appears 23,000 times in the Hebrew Bible. So this is a very important word. We're just going to go through. By the time the year is over, we'll have the top 500 words. The first semester will memorize the top 180 words. So these are the most important words to learn. They appear everywhere in the Hebrew Bible. Okay, the next word we want to learn is le. And le is put on the front of the word. This says to the light. For some reason, when you add a preposition, if it has the on the front, you drop the hey off, but you keep that long comments. So to the light, God called to the light day. So this is the word to. It appears 14,000 times in the Hebrew Bible. So it's the third word that we're going to learn. Be means in. It's joined to the front of the word. It's actually the first word in the Hebrew Bible. Bereshit. So Reshit means beginning, and so Be is in, so this is in beginning. Added to the front of the word, it appears 11,000 times. So if you just add those four words up, 40,000 plus 20,000 plus 15,000 plus 10,000, that's 85,000 words of the 303,000 in the Hebrew Bible. Learning these first words is just key to learning the language. So that's why we're just going to go down the list and we're going to review these. We're going to test ourselves on these, but you really want to get these first words because they appear everywhere. Anybody have questions on like what we're doing so far? Everybody understand what we're doing?
I really don't. I don't know the symbols. Like you said, the double dog edge or whatever. I don't.
Yeah, so there's going to be like a lot that is going to be confusing. That's kind of normal. The nice thing is we're going to go over this really slow. So the more we do it, you're going to have an aha moment and say, oh, I get what that's talking about. The thing with the dagesh is, do you remember in the Begad Kafat letters from last time, those Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Kof, Pei, and Tav? Remember we said if they have the dot in it, it takes the H out. And
Right.
if it doesn't have the dot, then those letters will have an H sound. Okay, that's called a Dagesh line, a weak Dagesh. So there's a Dagesh forte that isn't taking the H out, it's actually doubling the letter. And so rather than writing like Hashemayim with two shins, they just put a dot in it, and the dot actually doubles the letters. So they call that a Dagesh forte. And when you have the word the Dagesh that's in the next letter is not a Begad Kafat Dagesh, it's a doubling Dagesh. So the dot is the way they double a letter. But we're going to see it so many times that it'll eventually make sense to you. I remember what it was like sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, this foreign alphabet, and you know, half the stuff the teacher was saying was in Latin, and I didn't know Latin, and so I get it. But hang in there, and I think it'll become more clear. Any other questions or comments or?
Is that Dagesh forte in a guttural or no?
So you can't do a Dagesh forte in a guttural.
Right.
So a guttural letter will reject the Dagesh forte, and what you end up doing is you'll lengthen this patah to a comments. So they call it compensatory lengthening. There's no way to say like two ions together, ion. That would be really hard to say. So what they do instead is just lengthen the preceding vowel if it's a Dagesh forte. Other questions?
The guy in the video rolls his ratios.
Right.
Is that from an accent? Because I've also heard, I mean, it's a semi-guttural, and I've heard people almost do it sort of breathy and close throat sound.
Yeah. So rolling it is the exact way to do it. I can't roll mine. Reish. So I end up saying reish, but I'm not saying it right. He's saying it right.
Okay.
So if you can roll your R's, or some people call it trilling your R's, what you want to do is you want to copy him because his accent is perfect. I think he's a native speaker. I think he was born in Israel. So I did have a student a couple of years ago who could imitate that guy on the MP3. I mean, he sounded just like him, and he could read Hebrew, and it was like verbatim. And I as a teacher, I thought, how are you doing that? I mean, I've been trying to learn Hebrew 36 years, and you know, he could just do it exactly the way he did it. So that's what we're going to try to do too. So be a better speaker than I am, because he's the one who's doing it right. What else? All right. So if we come to this letter, this word, it's who. So just so we're all on the same page, does everyone understand how this is who? So this is going to be the 8th sound. This is that shurik, oo, and then this is a quiescent letter. So you just say this who. My Hebrew professor had this joke that he would tell us that Hebrew is the only language where who is he, and he is she, and me is who, and dog is fish. And that's true. So you get, if you can remember that joke, who is he, and he is she, and me is who, and dog is fish, you got 4 words. 30 years later, I had a Hebrew student who actually added a fifth part to that joke, and he was a Messianic Jew, and he said, "Ma, what?" So because the word "ma" in Hebrew is the word "what?" question mark. So, who is he, and he is she, and me is who, and dog is fish. What? Ma? What? Ma? So that'll give you 5 common words if you can remember that joke, but it starts with this who. Who is he? Who is he? All right, et is the definite direct object marker. The definite direct object marker. Now, part of learning a foreign language is learning English, all right? So I remember what it was like to be in a Greek class, and the lady was talking about an adjective, and I was too afraid to raise my hand because I didn't know what an adjective was. Okay, so we've got to get over that here, because part of what we're doing is kind of relearning the English language. So raise your hand if you know what a direct object is. Okay, this is great. So we need to make sure everybody's on the same page. What is a direct object? A direct object is the thing in the sentence that receives the action of an active verb. Consider this sentence: he painted the wall. Do all of you know that in that sentence, he painted the wall, that he is the subject? Do you know that he is the subject? Okay. So in that sentence, he painted the wall. Can you hear that it's the wall that's receiving the action of that active verb? Right? So when somebody says a direct object, that's what they mean. It's the thing that receives the action of an active verb. He painted the wall. She sang the song. The song is the direct object. He ran the race. The race receives the action. So in English grammar, the thing that receives the action of an active verb is the direct object. In Hebrew, this symbol marks a definite direct object. And what it means by a definite direct object is if you say the wall. So if I had the sentence, he painted the wall, I could use this symbol et, and it would show that it's the direct object, but not only the direct object, but it's the definite direct object. That is, it has the word the with it. So we already know that from Genesis 1:1. Bereshit bara et ha-shamayim. In the beginning, he created. Who is the he? The he is Elohim. And what is the definite direct object? The definite direct object is ha-shamayim. So shamayim is heaven, ha is the. So since it says the heavens and it's the direct object, I put this et in front of it. Now you say, why does it have 2 different versions of it? So this is called a makaf. This little line is called a makaf. And sometimes you'll see the et without the makaf, and sometimes you'll see it with the makaf. It probably has something to do with their thinking of it as a sign of. I mean, that's what this word et means by itself, is sign. And I guess it's the sign of the direct object. But in reality, for English speakers, there's no difference whether it has a McCafe or not. So you just have to learn both of them as the definite direct object marker. Now, is everybody good with that, or do we need to go over that a little more? If you have a direct object and it has the word "the" in it, you use this to show what the direct object is in the sentence. You with me? So in Genesis 1:1, you get et hashamayim. So it's this one. It doesn't have the makaf. This is the word "the." This is our dagesh forte, the doubling dagesh. And this whole thing just marks it out as what God created. Right? Here's when it does have the makaf. This is from the sentence, I think it's the sentence, Adam knew his wife Eve. So is it just any Eve, or is it the Eve he's married to? It's the Eve he's married to. And so it's definite. It doesn't have the word "the," but it's not any Eve, it's the Eve. And so it has the makaf, and it makes Eve the direct object of the verb know. Adam knew the Eve. You with me? So it's the definite direct object marker. You don't translate it. It's just a little sign that shows you, okay, this is the direct object of the verb. Men is from, and it's weird because sometimes you'll find it written like this, men hagoyim. So this is from Ezekiel 36. God says, I will take you from the nations. So men hagoyim. But sometimes it will be written like this, where the noon of it becomes a doubling dagesh in the next word. So this is from the Ten Commandments. It says, I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, from the Beit Ha'avadim, from the house of being slaves. So the from there, sometimes it's going to be written this way with the makaf, and sometimes this noon will be assimilated into the next word with a doubling dagesh, where the noon disappears and you double the next word. But both these are the same thing. It means from. Question on that? You with me?
How do we quickly look at that and know that that is a doubling dagesh when we see the dagesh or the dot in other letters?
Yeah, so that's going to be a little bit challenging to learn at first. And the way we're going to get over it is we're just going to listen to the guy read. And if you listen to him, like when he reads this, he's going to say, men ha-goyim, where this syllable is hag, and then you have a second syllable, goyim. But it's one of those things because Gimel is begad kafat, and you're going to say, well, how do I know that's not, a dagesh line? And there's some rules, and we're going to learn those rules over the course of several weeks. But what we're going to have to do at first is just listen to him. And what's going to happen is you're going to start hearing that he's doubling certain letters. If the letter isn't a begad kafat, so if it isn't a beit, gimel, a dalish, a kov, a pei, or a tav, if it's not one of those 6 letters, and it has a dot in it, then it always is a doubling dagesh. So it's only the begadkafats that can have a dagesh line. And even in the begadkafats, there are times when the dagesh will be a dagesh forte, but we're going to have to learn the special rules. But for now, we're just going to have to listen to him. And if it sounds like he's doubling the letter, then we're guessing that it's a dagesh forte. But if it's not in a begadkafat, it definitely is a dagesh forte, because the other letters, they don't have that begadkafat taking the H out. It's interesting in Israel, like they'll double letters, but they don't have the dots. They just know to double it. So the dots are kind of like training wheels for us, non-native speakers not hearing the words. But in an Israeli newspaper, they'll double letters, ha-goyim, but there won't be any dot in that letter. They just know to double it because you double it with the word the. So it's a strange system, but we're kind of learning it, from the outside as outsiders. So anything else on this word? One of the things you're going to have to help me with as a class is learning a language is hard, and part of the challenge is overcoming being tired. This is a 2-hour class, and so there are going to be times when we need to rest. And so if we get to that point, like tonight, just raise your hand and say, Judd, can we rest for 5 minutes? And what we'll do is tell funny stories, we'll tell jokes, we'll tell silly things about ourselves, but we'll use that kind of to get our breath. So if you start feeling like that, hey, I need to get a little break, just raise your hand and we'll take a 5-minute break. Any other questions before we go on?
You haven't taught us where to put the emphasis at on certain words, have you?
I haven't. Part of the reason is I'm not really good at that. But if we want to put the emphasis where they put the emphasis, whenever you have these extraneous little marks, that's where they're putting the emphasis. So it would be min ha-goyim, mibait, evadim. So these little marks, and these actually are musical marks. So if you went to Israel and you heard people chanting this, it's like musical accent. These are actually called cantillation marks. But I can't do that. I mean, I don't know how to do the cantillation marks other than that it's accent. But I'm not the one to mimic. The guy on the MP3 is, and if you listen to him, he's doing the cantillation marks. Merachefet, you can hear him, and that hefet, he's doing the emphasizing mark there. All right, ata. Now this is a begadkafat, but this is a doubling dagesh here. So if you were transliterating this, this would be A-T-T-A-H, ata. And it's how you say you if you're talking to a man. Now in English, our English word you doesn't differentiate between a man and a woman, but in Hebrew it does. There's a different word for you if you're talking to a woman versus a man. Ata is the man version for you, and it's you singular. Hebrew has a different you if you're talking to a bunch of people. So Ata is you, and it's you singular, and it's you if you're talking to a man. Haim is how you say the word them, and the them is masculine. So if it's a subject, it would be they, but if it's an object, it's them. Ani is how you say the word I, and there's no difference in Hebrew if the I is a man or a woman. So there's just one word I. So this word is called the Tetragrammaton, and the four sacred lettered word. A lot of people say this word Yahweh. We don't really know how it was said in antiquity. Yahweh is the best guess, but Jewish people wouldn't say this word out loud. In fact, in the Hebrew text, what you often see is this pointing, and often you'll have a holem there. And if you've ever wondered where the word Jehovah comes from, well, that's where it comes from, Yehovah. But in Hebrew, they never wanted you to say Yehovah. What they want you to say is the word Adonai, because these little points are the pointing for Adonai. And so when you come to this word, often they'll leave off the O. So you end up with a word that looks like you can't pronounce it. And they're using that as a mnemonic device to say, don't say this word out loud, say the word Adonai. In the ancient text, sometimes they would write this word in a different color ink. Sometimes they would put it in Paleo Hebrew. Sometimes they didn't know what to do with it, but this is so sacred that they wouldn't say it out loud. Because of the third commandment, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, they felt like even saying this out loud might do that, and so they avoided it. But this is our word. This is the most sacred word, and this is usually how it's spelled, but they're not wanting you to say Yevah. They're not even wanting you to say Yehovah. They're wanting you to say Adonai. Often in the text, if you have like Adonai spelled out, when you come to this word, they'll use the pointing for Elohim. So they want you to say Adonai Elohim. But this is God's most sacred name, and you can do it YHWH in all capitals. You can do it the Lord in all capitals. You can do it however you want, but this is God's sacred name, the Tetragrammaton. Everybody with me? All right. L is 2, and there's a mnemonic device to get this word. Does anybody know the name of the Israeli airline? The nation of Israel. El Al, and it means to upon. You're going to someplace and you're riding upon this airplane. So El Al is the Israeli airline, and it's this word, to. You're going to, and you're sitting upon this plane. El Al is one of the safest airlines in the world, because if you ever fly on El Al, you end up having to talk to somebody about 2 hours before they let you on the plane, and they ask you where you've been, and like if you're nervous at all, they're going to jerk you out of that line and take you to a room and talk, interrogate you. So it's a very safe airline. But if you can remember that El Al is the Israeli airline, that's how you can remember this word.
The word is Al, you said?
Yeah, L is 2.
Okay.
A share is how you say who or which. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. So, Enoki Adonai Eloheka Asher, who brought you out. This word appears everywhere in the Hebrew Bible. Amar is he says. We've already run across this word in Genesis 1 when it says Vayomer Elohim, and the Lord said. So Vayomer, and the Lord said. So Amar, it appears everywhere. He said. Al, so this is the other part of the Israeli airline, El Al, to upon. So all it means upon. And we come to the black screen, which means we have no more words to memorize. Now, I want us to play a little game. Okay. We have 15 words we're trying to memorize. Without looking at your notes, can you remember any of those words? All right, so if you know a word on that list, unmute your mic and let's see how many we can get. I'll keep track for us. All right, who'll be first?
Oh, the easiest one's Yahweh.
And how do you spell that?
In English or Hebrew?
In Hebrew.
Yod He Vav He.
Perfect. Yod He Vav He. Okay, so that's one.
The one for and.
The one for and. How do you spell that one?
Well, it's just you chose the single letter. They is that Vav.
Vav. Vav with a Shiva under it. 37,000 times. Okay. Who can remember another one? You know, I do this in my Greek class at Bryan, and sometimes I'll bribe the students and say, if you can get all 15 of them, I'll let you not take the quiz for today. I don't think I'll do that now, but, or I don't know, maybe would that help us concentrate better? You tell me. Okay, we got 2 out of the 15. Can you get
They.
They? How do you spell they?
The hay and the final men.
We're knocking this out of the park, and it has a saray under it. Okay, that's 3 out of the 15.
Ani, I, Aleph, Nun, Yod.
Good. Ani, right. So I think that's a patah with a shiva, so a hatef patah, a noon, and then a hirik yod, ani, I. All right, so that's 4.
2. Lambda.
Yeah, lambda with a shiva is 2. That's 5 we've got.
The bait with the Shua. In.
In. Good. That's 6 we've got.
You, Ata, Aleph, Ta, Hey.
Oh, very good. Right, the U. And anything funny about the Tav there?
It's a Dagesh Forte.
Dagesh Forte, Ata. You, masculine, second person, singular. Good. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're almost halfway there.
Who, Hey, Tav, Aleph.
and what does that word mean?
He.
Who is he? Right. Okay, we're over halfway. That's 8.
Mean, from.
From, min. Good. Mem, Hirik, noon. From. Woohoo,
So
that's 9.
you say men instead of mean?
I say men. And I've never really thought about it, but that is treating the Hirik as a short Hirik. When the Hirik has a yod with it, it's a long Hirik, so it's eem on the end of the word, but it's min when you say this word, so it is a short Hirik there. So that's 9. We only got 6.
Amar, to speak.
Amar. Right.
Aleph, Mem, Resh.
Good. And it's got a comments under the Aleph and a pata under the Mem. Good. Woohoo, we only have 5 to go.
L, Aleph.
Oh, Aleph, lambda with a segol. And what does L mean?
2.
2. And there's probably another one we can get in there.
All for on.
Right.
Ayin, Patat, Lambda.
Good. Perfect. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're missing 3.
A with the Dagesh Forte for the.
That's right. Hey with a pata and a Dagesh forte in the next letter is the word the. So
And Eth for the definite direct object marker.
oh,
Hey, Sago, Aleph, Sago, Tau. Or Tau, sorry, I'm in Greek.
Christina, you got that faster than I did. May that happen many, 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 many more times. That's exactly right. Oh, now I can't remember the word. Say it again.
Eth for the definite direct object marker.
Oh, right. Hey, pata, doubling Dagesh. So we still got 2 more. Oh, et. Right, with this array. And if it has the makaf, it's a segol. So et without the makaf, or et 8 with the segol and the makaf. Either one of those are used. So I don't know. I think we're missing one.
Shar. We said a shar.
Kudos to Ryan. Oh my goodness. That's exactly the one we were. So I would say that a share.
A share.
And Ryan, what does a share mean?
That which or that whom.
That's exactly right. So did all of you feel how what we just did kind of made your head hurt a little bit? I don't know. Did it make your head hurt? Okay. So what that is cross training. And I don't know why, but when you do it 2 ways like that, we're trying to get these words in our midterm memory and then our long-term memory. And I've found that doing what we just did helps it get there. The other thing that will help us get there is to write it down. And so if we're in the slideshow, we were going through, you can go through the slides backwards. So what does the word say? The word say is amar. What is who or which? It's the word asher. And what you can do, like go backwards, but even go backwards writing them down. I'm not asking you to write them down in Hebrew on the quiz, but if you go backwards and write them down, it will just send it so much deeper in your memory, and it's cross training. And I find that I have to have that little tingle little hurting tingle in my head to actually get it in my midterm memory. But once you realize, or at least that's how I learn, once you realize that that's what you have to do, then you've got this down, because it's just memorizing, a handful of words, and because the grammar is going to be really simple for us to learn. So everybody comfortable in like what we're doing. Should we take a 5-minute break just to rest our minds a little bit? You want to do that? Somebody got a funny story they can tell about themselves, or if you have a cool hobby. I have a cool hobby with my son. We have a bunch of chainsaws, and we harvest trees that have fallen down, and we turn them into furniture. And so we bought this huge chainsaw, the biggest chainsaw you can buy in the world, and we put it in what's called an Alaskan mill. And so we'll go to people's houses if they got a huge oak tree or something, and we'll cut it into big slabs of wood. And so he and I have that hobby, and we've gotten so into it that we built a wood kiln, and we dry the wood, and then he built this huge thing at his shop where we can flatten the wood perfectly flat, and like we make desktops out of it. And it's really interesting to take old junk wood that's going to be firewood and turn it into the most beautiful furniture you've ever seen. But it's kind of a fun hobby, and I say we do it. I pretty much stand there and help my son, and he runs everything, but I have a good time getting sawdust all over me and helping him get the huge logs on our trailer. So that's my hobby. Any of you have a weird hobby or fun hobby or strange hobby?
I do triathlons, and I have a race on Saturday.
Oh my
So
goodness. And oh my goodness. You're the second person at BTS, I think, that I've met that does triathlons. How did you get into that, Christina?
Actually, I got into it originally for my daughter. I have an adopted daughter from Cambodia, and she thought it was kind of impossible to study English here. And I told her if God's called her to it, then He'll make it possible. And so I kind of said the same thing about triathlons, because I had no experience in any of the three, and I did it for her originally to help increase her faith in the Lord. And then it turns out I actually really like the sport.
Oh my goodness.
So now I do them for fun.
You do triathlons for fun. I feel very unmotivated right now. That is so amazing. Oh my goodness. And so where's the triathlon? Where's your next triathlon?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Livonia, Georgia. People have told me different things. It's about 3 hours from here in Tougaloo State Park.
Livonia. I'm from Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, and I've seen that, but I can't picture exactly where it is. Wow. And which of the three events are you best in?
I'm just best at finishing, completing. I'm not good at any of the three.
Oh my goodness.
So, but I like swimming the best.
And do you have a time that you train every day? Like when do you train?
I do. Actually, I'm training tonight. I'm doing a 25-mile bike ride at 9 o'clock tonight. That's the only time I've had to train today.
Oh my goodness.
So it's different times, whenever I can fit it in.
I am so impressed. That is so cool. Okay, so we've cleared our minds, so we're going to do that for every time. Like when I'm at home and I'm studying languages and I kind of get burned out, I get my electric guitar, and if nobody else is here, I'll turn that thing up so loud it's rattling the window. I mean, the dog and cat I would reach for the guitar and they would run, because they knew this was going to be so loud. And I found this magical thing would happen if I put Stevie Ray Vaughan on. A really strange thing happens. The higher I turn the volume, the better I play. Or maybe he's just playing really good. But I love doing that. So if I'm here by myself and studying languages and kind of feel like I need to recharge, I'll get my guitar out for 5 minutes and play. But I found that you need to find something like that to clear your head, to kind of, if your mind is a muscle, you need to figure out how to rest just a little bit, because if you keep on pushing and your mind's hurting a little bit, I find I don't learn very well. So that's why in this class we're going to take little breaks like this every few minutes just to clear our heads. So that's what we've done. And so we're back at the study guide. So if you go to your study guide and you want that PowerPoint vocab, if you click on that, it will take you to my Dropbox. And if you look at the top right-hand corner, you can hit download, and it should download that file to your computer. And so with anything I give you access to, feel free to download it and use it, to give it to other people, because I want as many people to learn Hebrew as possible. Has anybody been able to download that file already? And the font came through okay? And okay, good. So it says click here for quiz 2A, and let's see if I can. We don't want to go to that just yet. We might ask the question, why is pointing so hard? Well, this is a picture of manuscript B19A. It's called the Leningrad Codex, because when St. Petersburg was called Leningrad in Russia, it was the oldest complete manuscript of the Hebrew Bible. It's in the Hermitage, which is Russia's version of the Louvre Museum. And every printed Hebrew Bible that we have is just a faithful reproduction of this one manuscript. So if you've taken Greek and you've gotten that little blue Greek, that's an eclectic text. They've looked at all 5,000 manuscripts. They've compared the readings. They've printed the ones that, they're certain are exactly right. That's not true of this. So our Hebrew Bible, BHS, is making no claim to be an eclectic Hebrew text. It's simply claiming to be a very faithful copy of this one manuscript. If you go online, you can access this manuscript. It's a big thing, folio version. Each page is in 3 columns, and you can see that what we've learned, Bereshit, bara, Elohim, et hashamayim, va'et haaretz. You can see that's exactly the text we had. And so this text was copied in 1008 AD. We know that because the guy dated it when he wrote it. And we know the guy who copied it. I can't remember his name, but this is the oldest complete Hebrew Bible that we have. And so all Hebrew Bibles today just printed. They are working on an eclectic text called the Oxford Hebrew Bible Project, but that text is nowhere near completion. Maybe if I live to 100 years old, you can call me up and say, Judd, they finally published, the Oxford Hebrew Bible, and I'm going to be saying, yay, what's the Hebrew Bible or something, but they'll publish it maybe in 50 years. But for now, what they're doing is reprinting this text. And so this is the actual picture through verse 5, Yom Echad. So the question is, why is this pointing thing that we're learning, this little symbol system, why is it so hard? Well, the reason it's hard is because originally there was no pointing system. So if you brought Moses to this text, Moses could not read these little dots when he was on earth. These little dots were made up in 400 AD. These dots were reducing to sound certain vowels. And so when you get to like the Dead Sea Scrolls, they're written like this. There are no dageshes, there are no little dots. People just memorized how the words sounded and then had the consonantal written text, but they remembered what vowels to put in. So why is this system so hard? Well, it's so hard because originally there was another system that was used. And the system that was used was a system where they used consonants as semi-vowels. And so all the consonants in red are consonants that they think were added sometime, after the text was written to represent vowel sounds. And so what that means is you've got a system in our printed text that they used to use, and put on top of that is the system that we use now. But if you're trying to figure out how to do it, like if you were trying to figure out how to write a sentence down, you're going to have to memorize like 50 different rules to make these two systems make sense, which is why it's so hard. It's why we can't just have 5 rules and then just read it out loud as good as the guy on the MP3, because there are 2 systems there, and so sometimes a hierarch will be a short hierarch and sometimes it'll be a long, and it has to do with these letters. And these letters are called Mater Lectionis, a mother of reading. So sometime before pointing was put in the text, some scribes started using this system of Mater Lectionis, where they were using consonants as if they were pseudo vowels. And so that system continued for a while, and then they went to the pointing system, and the pointing system worked a lot better. But when scribes were copying the text, they started counting how many olives were there, how many baits were there. And so they decided they couldn't change the text at all, because if they counted up the olives in Genesis and their number was wrong, then the manuscript was invalid. And so what happened is you have 2 systems that are fixed in our text, and both of them are at work, but it's hard for us when we come to the text to realize there are 2 systems there. But if you want a chart that kind of represents, these would be the historically long vowels or the unchangeably long vowels. I think if you think of these as Mater Lectionis letters, where they're using letters to represent vowels. When you come here, these are the long vowels. I think really the Heuric is really a defectively written one there, because sometimes when they write these letters, they'll actually leave one of these letters out and they call it defective writing. But you can remember these, okay, this is that, Mater Lectionis thing. These are the long vowels. These are the short vowels. And these are the half vowels. So it turns out there are going to be rules when you use each one of these. But we're not going to try to memorize those rules at first. We're simply going to listen to the guy and we're going to copy what he does. And over time, we're going to kind of pick up what's going on here. But we're not going to do it in a way where we're going to memorize 37 rules to figure out when to use it. We're just going to copy the way he talks. But basically, that's what's going on. You've got the Mater Lectionis letters. You've got long, you've got short, and then you've got half vowels. All right? Not saying you've got everything, but does some of that make sense to you?
What is I don't know if I should know this or not, but what is the dotted circle?
The dotted circles would be a letter, so like a bait. So these little dots can go under a letter, and the little circle represents any letter. So like a mem, a lamed, a bait.
So it's a symbol for a symbol.
Right, a symbol for a letter. And so if you want to put an A-class vowel under a letter, you would put this, and then you would put that letter too. And if this is a bait, I think I have it like down here somewhere. Yeah. Then you would say that ba. You would say that bay. You would say that bow. You would say that ba, be, ba, boo. Be, but supposedly half, whatever you say there. Be, ba. So this little symbol, these little symbols, are just ways that the scribes came up with to supply letters. Let me show you a little funny little exercise. Okay, imagine that's a Hebrew text. So it doesn't have any vowels in it, right? What does that sentence say? You got to supply your own vowels. What does that sentence say?
Love my cat.
I love my cat. That's kind of the obvious meaning, right? If you got, I know I is a vowel, but I had to do it, to get us started. But I love my cat. Is that the only thing that sentence could say? Amanda, what else could it say?
I mean, you could go a lot of ridiculous ways, but like, I love my cut.
I love my cut, right? Suppose we're in Minnesota and it's 50 degrees below zero. What would the sentence say?
My coat.
I love my coat.
Love my city.
I love my city. Or maybe you don't like your city. What would the sentence say?
I leave my city.
I leave my city. And suppose you're an undergraduate and you've just fallen in love and you've just gotten engaged. It could be, I love my cutie, right? If you're supplying your own vowels, this sentence could say a lot of different things, right? That's what faced the scribes when they were writing it down like this. The scribes were afraid that people would lose the ability to pronounce these words rightly. So what they did is they came up with this system to give us hints at what vowels to supply. Most of the time, there's no debate. There are certain passages where there's huge debate, where you've got the same consonantal text, but if you supply different vowels, it means something different. So what we're learning in these dots is the vowel system that's used in this manuscript. So this manuscript's going to have Mater Lectionis letters, and then it's going to have this invented system of telling us which vowels to supply. And it turns out, if we looked at like lots of different manuscripts, there are other systems. What we're learning is called the Tiberian system. And it's called the Tiberian system because the manuscript was copied in Tiberias on the Sea of Galilee. And so at that school, the city was a big city, and so they call this the Tiberian system of pointing. And this is what B19A uses. The system they used in Palestine was this system. The system they used in Babylon was this system. So the reason this pointing thing is so difficult is because it's a made-up system that's been put over top of another system, and what we're learning to do is decipher what those scribes did. So it is challenging, but the nice thing is we got a year to figure out how to do it, right? So we're just going to read these texts a lot. We're going to realize that they're Mater Lectionis letters, that there's what's called defective writing, where you should have a long letter, but you don't. And it's because the scribes are being so careful that they're not wanting to add even one letter to the manuscript. But it means it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to us, but the grammar is not difficult, and we've got a whole year to do it. So we're just going to learn this system, and I've put here several explanations from standard grammars, and so read through all of them and see which one makes sense. This particular one here, distinguishing between a silent schwa and a vocal schwa, this is solid gold. If you can get this down, it's going to tell you every time whether or not it's a vocal schwa or a silent schwa. So read that, see if it makes sense to you. We'll go over it a lot. Don't worry about this. I put that in there as I'm revising this. I wanted to see if I could do this, but don't worry about it. And then go back and review, get where you can say the alphabet, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Sadi, Kof, Reis, Sin, Shin, Tav. You want to get where you can just say it like that. And once you can say it, realize that these letter names are actually words in the language. So Aleph is how you say ox, Beit is how you say house, Gimel is how you say camel, Dalet is how you say door, He is how you say air hole, Vav is how you say nail, Zion is how you say weapon, Chet is how you say fence, Tet is how you say a winding, Yod is how you say hand, Kaf is how you say the palm of your hand, Lamed is the ox goad, Mem is part of Mayim, water, Nun is another word for fish, Samik is prop, which I don't exactly know. I guess like you prop something up. Ayin is how you say the word eye. Pei is mouth. Sade is fish hook. Kof is the eye of a needle. Resh is head. Shin is tooth. And Tav is sign. So, memorize the letters, then realize the letters are words. You get some words if you do that. Try to remember which words are Begad Kafat words. Remember that the Dagesh Line takes the H out of Begad Kafat. And if you do that, you're going to be well on your way. The nice thing about...
How do you know?
Go ahead.
Use it as a letter and not as a word.
So they're always letters, but the names are actually mean things, because originally these were pictograms. The Aleph looked like an ox. Like in Paleo Hebrew, when you look at an Aleph, it looks like an ox head. And so originally they were like pictograms, but they became phonetic letters. And then the pictogram name became the name of the phonetic letter. It's actually where we get the word alphabet from, is Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. So you want to do something that'll blow your mind or you want to do some biblical theology. What should we do? We need to be encouraged here. There's a thing that we'll look at sometime when we're tired. Remind me, it's what's called an Atbash code, and it's in Jeremiah. But let's save that to do that, because like I remember the first time I saw it, like it blew my mind. But probably we don't need our minds blown right now. We probably need our minds rested a little bit. So let me get this where I can see it. So can everybody see my Bible Works going up and down there? So what is Eve's second son's name in the Bible? Second son of Adam and Eve, what's his name?
Abel.
Abel. Do you know that all the names in the Bible mean something? Like every name in the Greek and Hebrew Bible actually is a word from the language. Our names are just nice collocations of letters, but they don't mean anything. All Hebrew names mean something. So if all Hebrew names mean something, what do we need to do as intelligent readers of the text when we come to a name?
Get up.
And so if we do that with Abel, my computer is being overtaxed. You can see how slow it's running. I think I need to buy a new computer pretty soon here. There it goes. So 4:2 is the first place that Abel appears. So can you find where the word Abel is in this sentence just by looking at the Hebrew? Va tosef la ledeth et ahiv et havel vayehi hevel roeh. Can you spot where the word Abel is? Can you see that? Can you see it's right there? Let's do a lemma search. Show me everywhere in the Bible where the word Abel appears. And what do you notice about these passages? What do you notice about the word Abel? Is it in the text a lot or a little?
There a lot.
Okay. Tell me where the word Abel is in this sentence. What's the word Abel being translated as?
Foolish nation.
Yeah.
You're not my people.
So it's being translated this way, with their idols. See, this is the word in. This is the word they. And this is the word Abel. The word Abel is the word idol. How about here? How is it being translated here?
Vanity.
Right. Vanity. Vanity. How about here? How is it being translated?
Worthless.
How about here? Maybe graven images. The customs or of the people are a lie. Okay, that's how it's being translated. They are both stupid and foolish idols. Vain idols. Empty consolation. Okay, do you have an observation about the word Abel?
Wasn't a good name.
It wasn't a good name. It means something like, oh, let me show you one that just really blows my mind. Surely Abel are the sons of Adam, and a lie are the sons of a man. In the scales to go up, they are less than nothing. Or the next verse, vain hopes is how it's translated there. Do you have a question about Adam and Eve's choice of a name for their son?
Why would they name? Because I heard you say it, so why would they name their son that?
Would the name of, or would the use of that word develop into that meaning over time because of what happened to Abel? Or would that have been like the original meaning when they named him in Genesis 4?
I think it's the original meaning of the name.
So I think they would have thought that Cain was the promised one, maybe, and Abel, not having the birthright, and they were looking forward to the promised Messiah from 3:15.
That's exactly right. Now I want to show you something that I'll bet you've never seen before and never even heard anybody make this point, but I want to make it. So how do you translate the word et? It was in our
Definite object marker.
you can translate it the direct definite object marker. It turns out it can also be the word with. So this sentence is that Adam knew the Eve, his wife, and she conceived and she bore Cain, and she said, I have caned a man, I have acquired a man. And then it's translated here with Yahweh. So that's how the ESV translates it. I want you to look at one of the Targums. So I'm going to say, show me all the English translations. And we're going to go down to this Targum, Pseudo-Jonathan in English. So this is an Aramaic Targum. And this is how the Pseudo-Jonathan Targum translates our Hebrew text. Adam knew Hava, his wife. So see, they're just transliterating that life. In Greek, she's Zoe, Adam and Zoe, but Pseudo-Jonathan does, Adam knew Hava, his wife, who desired the angel. Now that's picking up the whole Genesis 6 thing, and I think that's the wrong way to read that passage, but this is how the Pseudo-Jonathan is doing. She desired the angel, and she conceived and bore Cain, and she said, I have acquired a man. Who is that man? The man is the angel of the Lord. How is Pseudo-Jonathan reading this word et? Pseudo-Jonathan is reading this word et as a definite direct object marker. If you read it that way, who does Eve think her baby is?
Hercules.
Like almost Yahweh incarnate, right? Like she heard that the seed was coming and she has this gorgeous baby, and who does she think this gorgeous baby is? Well, I mean, look at him. He has to be the the seed who's going to crush the serpent's head. But is that how the story works out? God doesn't. God chooses Abel, the nothing, the emptiness, the vanity. God accepts him as he comes with this sacrifice. And can you imagine if all your life your parents called you the acquired one or God's gift or almost God incarnate? I mean, wouldn't you almost have this God complex where you thought, man, I am the one who's just going to redeem humanity. I'm the one gifted. And can you imagine if you were the brother and every time somebody called your name you heard worthless, emptiness, vanity, nobody? But you come with the offering that God had shown your parents to bring, and God accepts you. And not only does God accept you, you're called righteous. And the text says your blood cries out from the ground. And isn't that how religion always played out, where people are trying to get God to accept them based on the work of their hands versus coming in emptiness and reliance on God? I couldn't see any of those things unless I was looking at the Hebrew text. And looking at the Hebrew text, it's like, oh my goodness. Eve, at best, thinks that like Cain's the one, and she may be thinking like Cain's like almost the earthly presence of God. I mean, Pseudo Jonathan is reading it that way. And when you see, I mean, he's just interpreting this as a perfectly valid way to read it as a definite direct object marker. And he's reading it as in opposition to this word man. I have gained a man. And who is that man? That man is the Lord. And you think, how in the world could you think that? But it's interesting. It's easy to see something like that in Hebrew. It's almost impossible to see that in Greek, in English. You guys want to do another one? This is motivation for learning this beautiful language. Let's look. Let's look at this one. And the Lord God, see, that's our Tetragrammaton word, and then the word Elohim. Can you see those two words? The Lord God caused to fall a tardema on the atom. Now, where else does this word tardema appear? I'm going to do a lemma search on it.
Abraham.
It's the Abraham word. God caused a deep sleep to fall. So maybe somehow these stories are connected. And he slept. And then it says God took one of his supporting beams, right? There's our word, so this is going to be a rib. And he shut up the flesh underneath it. So the Lord God made a deep sleep fall on Adam, and he wounded him in his side. If we just added the Greek text, we're going to see this is the word plura. That's going to be important in a little while. It says, and Elohim banad, the rib which he took from the Adam, into a woman. He banad it into a woman. In the ESV, do you see how it says made, but it has a footnote there? Do you see the footnote? Whenever there's a footnote in an Old Testament text, it's telling you there's something really important there in Hebrew. Because if we do a lemma search on this word build, we're going to see that it appears everywhere. We're just going to look at this in English for a second. He built a city. Noah built an altar. He built Nineveh. Come, let us build a tower. The Lord came down to see the tower which they built. When we come to these texts, he built an altar. He went up. Hebron was built. So this word build is used of building a temple, building a house, building a city. It's used everywhere. Well, I want you to see something in Greek. In Greek, they translate this word bana. In Greek, they translate it literally to house build. Yahweh house built the rib which he had taken from the Adam into a woman. He house built. I remember the first time I saw this blew my mind. How is this word used in the New Testament?
In the church.
It's used. The stone that the builders rejected has been house built. Okay? You yourselves are being house built. House build one another. If I house build. I mean, this is the word that's universally translated edify in the New Testament. But if we translated this in the Old Testament, house built, do you know of another woman who is house built and brought to a man, and he issues a judgment over her, only it's not a negative judgment, it's a positive judgment, and he says, you're bone of my bone and you're flesh of my flesh, you're the feminine version of me. Do you know another woman like that in this story that God brings to his son?
Church.
The church. The Bible starts with a cosmic wedding and it ends with the cosmic wedding, only what's changed is the power couple. The first power couple was a dirt man who failed at everything God asked him to do, and so he was replaced by the God man. And have you ever thought about this in the story? What happens to the God man when he falls into the deep sleep of death? Is he wounded in his plura? So I'm just looking up this word plura And I see it's used all these places, and I come to John, and John says one of the soldiers with his long spear stabbed him in his pleura, and there came out blood and water. So Adam was stabbed in his pleura and then healed, and out of that, God house builds this woman. And John is saying, you know, Jesus was stabbed in his pleura after he died. And in Revelation, he's going to tell us about this virgin bride who is glorious, and God brings that virgin bride to the God-man, the new Adam, and there's this cosmic power couple wedding in restored Eden. It's like, oh my goodness, like this is this meta-narrative, and these stories are connected, but would I have ever connected any of that if I couldn't read the original languages? And I'm not sure I could. I mean, they're valid translations, but because there are different words in English, like, I couldn't connect those texts in a million years, but when I can see it in the original, it's like, of course, that's what's happening. I've been in biblical languages now for 39 years in Greek. Is coming up, well, next fall will be 40 years in Greek, and maybe 37, 38 years in Hebrew. And I can tell you this, that there hardly is a day that goes by that there isn't something like that in the text. This glorious thing that you realize this is the most artistic thing that exists on planet Earth, that the beauty of this, the connections of this story, and the languages just help me see it. And I think will help your people see it too. And so the challenge for us is we need to get good enough at reading this language where we can help people start making the connections. And so that's what we're going to do in this class. Yes, we're going to have to memorize some vocabulary words. We're going to have to memorize a few charts, but the payoff for us is going to be glorious because it's going to open up a world of biblical theology, and it's going to solve so many problems for us because it's going to give us the tool where we can see it and make the connection. Questions or comments or observations before we go on? So what are we trying to do for this week? What's our one goal? Like if we perfectly studied, what are we trying to do?
Get better at reading the text.
Right. So we want to get where we can read anything in those first 5 verses. So here's the deal. I've got the quizzes. The quizzes are meant to be a help, not a hindrance. your learning style may not connect with quizzes, hey, that's okay. I want to do the thing that will connect with you, but if reading the first 5 verses is what's important, if you can read the first 5 verses, then you have met the goal for this week. What's the second thing I want you guys to do this week?
PowerPoint.
Yeah, I want you to know the 15 most frequent words. So, without looking at your notes or anything, can you remember any of those words? Which ones can you remember?
The object marker et.
Et. And we saw how that's already been important, right? That there's a debate how you translate I gained a man with the Lord or I gained a man who is the Lord. I mean, that was worth memorizing that word. Okay, that's one. What else? Oh, I see, Scott. You got one, but I think your mic is muted.
The word for I.
Ani, I, good.
Where's Yahweh?
YHWH.
And for in.
Avery, I think I saw you first.
Bet for in.
In, right. Good. That's 4. Can we get
L.
Sorry.
L. 2.
L2. Good. And if you can get L, you can probably get another one too. Owl, right? 2 and upon. Okay, I think that's 6.
Ha.
Ha, the word the. Good.
Vav.
Vav, oh yeah. And?
Who is he?
Who is he? That's right.
Did we say all for upon?
All upon, that's right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Can we get 6 more?
Ata.
Ata! Very good. And what does ata mean?
You.
You. All right.
A share?
Oh, very good. And a share means?
That which, whom.
That's exactly right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Can we get 4 more?
Men for from, out of.
Men is from or out of, right?
Who.
Who is he? That's right. Good. Did you know that 10 times in Genesis 1 it says Vayomer Elohim and God said, and the Jews talk about God created the world with 10 words, and then the 10 commandments are called the 10 words. Vayomer.
Amar.
Amar, good. Amar, he said. think we just have two of them left.
Do we have the la, two towards?
Perfect. Two toward. And then maybe the hardest one for us to remember. It's a pronoun. It's a masculine plural pronoun.
Is it him or him?
Him. Oh man. I would almost be tempted to say I'm a good teacher, but I know that you guys are good students because I pronounce Hebrew terribly. But I can tell you this: I want to love this language. I want you to help you love it because this language will pay you back. This language will pay you back so many times. This language is a biblical theological tool that will just open up the beauty of the text, and so I can't wait for us. So you've got till Saturday. Do the two quizzes. If the two quizzes are frustrating you, probably that chart might frustrate you. If you can do a video where you just recite Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashemayim ve'haaretz v'haaretz hayita tohu vabohu. If you can do any of that, that's as good as the chart in my mind. But do the thing that's helpful to you. The goal is to try to get where you can read through Genesis 1:1-5. And so that's our goal. Memorize these 15 words, and I'll send you another pre-study thing. I'll try to get it to you on Saturday, and then next week we'll come and do what we've just done tonight. We'll learn it together. If you're struggling at all, email me. We can do a one-on-one Zoom chat, but I'm for you, and I think you're all going to do very well in this class. So be encouraged. Before we leave, any questions or comments or observations?
Dr. Davis, I had a question, and this may be kind of a field. It's a biblical theological question I've been thinking about all week since one of the examples last week, and it's very similar to what Amanda asked. So the example of tohu vavohu that you gave and the judgment language that Jeremiah 4, I wanted to amen, and I was all behind you, and I still am systematically in terms of eternal decree and sort of the redemptive program from the outset. But I couldn't get past why we wouldn't just say that anytime tohu and vohu are occurring in the judgment text, that it's decreation.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's presenting the world because of sin being decreated. That's exactly what it's doing.
Well, but I thought we were saying that we have to maybe, or that we would read a judgment connotation in the Genesis 1 tohu and vohu.
Yeah, so I don't believe in like the gap theory where there was a world that was judged, between Genesis 1 and 2. There are people who believe that. I don't think that's what the text is saying. But I do think that the text is inviting us to see that original creation as if it were chaotic and almost judged. I mean, when's the only other time the world's completely covered with water?
Right.
It's in Noah's flood. So when the world is completely covered in water, it looks like it's under the waters of judgment. And then you have the Ruach lovingly hovering over this thing that looks like it should be judged, and God is speaking life and light and land. And you wonder, I wonder if God isn't creating the world in a way that foreshadows redemption. And so he creates a world that looks like it's bad and makes it good. And I think Paul is doing that in 2 Corinthians 4:6, where he says the same God who said light will shine in darkness is the God who has shown in our hearts. So he's assuming it's an actual factual historic event, but it's also a parable in time of God's future work of redemption. That's how I'm trying to wrestle with the details. I think that could be more precisely worded, because I'm not trying to say the world was judged, but it looks like it was judged. It looks like it was under judgment until God's grace turned it into something beautiful. And that's true of our lives, isn't it? I mean, we are under judgment, and then God's Spirit hovers, and God speaks light, and God calls the work that he's done good. And doesn't that imply that before God worked that it wasn't good? I don't know. That's what I've struggled through, Ryan. I don't know. You can wrestle with those same texts and see if there's a better way to say that. But I think something like that is going on in the text. And it raises the whole thing. Are there negative elements in pre-fall creation? And some people will say, well, God says it's very good. Well, it is very good, but the absence of light is only good as a foil for the light, and could be the chaos that be good in that it's foil for the order that God brings through his gracious fixing what looks like that original chaos. That's what I wonder anyway. So anything else? We've got 1 minute.
Am I missing something? I don't even have a foundation for like the words that y'all were calling off, and I'm missing something somewhere.
So
did I miss? I don't know.
You didn't miss. But all we're trying to do is get where we can sound out the words. And it's not all.
Yeah, I get that, but I get that, but I don't even have a foundation for where you got the words. I don't even have a foundation for how you put the word. All I know is the alphabet.
That's enough for right now.
Did I miss something?
No. I've always told my students that what we're doing is like learning to ride a bike, and I get to be the parent, and I'm running behind you, and right now, like you may have training wheels on, and you got that bike's leaning over 45 degrees, and it's going forward, and the only thing keeping you from hitting the ground is the training wheel. That's fine. But the day's going to come when you balance that bike. And when you balance that bike, I'm going to be running behind you, and you're going to pedal that bike over the hill, and I'm going to be the proud parent just taking a video tape. But that's not where we are yet, and that's okay.
Right now, I don't even feel like I got a bike, is what I'm saying. Everybody else was able to call off a word and understand what it was and all that. I don't even have a foundation for how you put that together, and that's what I'm saying. I'm missing something.
I think you probably got more than you believe, but it may be that maybe you and I can set up a 15-minute call and we can go through it just together, the two of us. But you're absolutely where you should be. I mean, you're able to write out the alphabet and sound out the letters because you wrote the names, and that's enough for right now. But the day's going to come that you're going to be a fantastic Hebrew reader, and I'm going to help you get there. But I know because I've been exactly where you are, where it just seems like I am just drowning, like everybody else has got it and I don't have it, and it's okay. If you can trust me, it's okay because you're memorizing the things. You memorize the alphabet, and we're going to get to where we can say the words, and that's really all that we have to do. My memory right now is a lot better than it was when I started in languages, and like the fact that I could recall those words backwards. The reason I could do that is because I've studied languages for a lot of years. I couldn't do that at first. I couldn't even begin to do that at first. But we're going to get you there. I've taught enough these classes to know that anybody who's working as hard as you, the day's going to come where you're going to be a spectacular reader. So we'll set up a Zoom thing, and I'll send you a link tomorrow. Maybe we can find a time, maybe on Saturday or something, and kind of get it worked out. We good? All right. Well, thank you for your hard work. This is going to be a beautiful class, and I'll see you next time.